Hello, welcome back. We are on episode 47 now. Sorry, we've been away for a week, but we will definitely be catching up with all of that. So thank you for tuning in.
Yes, episode 47, and we're going to talk about miracles and miracles. So, although I'm not a big reader of the Bible, I think those two miracles have been documented in the Bibles. But of course, they have been augmented, and increased, embellished, so as to create a cleavage between God, the divine, and Yeshua, of course,
Right.
and the rest of the human.
Right.
Make sure that what he was doing could not be done by others.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to try to bring back some of the truths according to the Akashic Memories, the memories of nature.
Right.
And maybe explain some of those miracles and what happened.
All right. Let's see what happened.
So this is about, the first miracle is about the famous bread and fish multiplication.
Right.
And the second one is about Yeshua bringing back to life a young man. So what we have is a large crowd which has gathered in front of Yeshua, with the intent of getting some more teachings. And this is taking place on a plateau named Tabga. And I was able to find a little map. Actually, that place is actually very close to the sea. It's almost on the seashore, but that's where it took place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, everybody was realizing the need to breathe a different air, so they decided to join Yeshua. And everybody had gathered to listen to the tall rabbi in white, and that's how they call him, who was performing miracles and telling difficult things to understand. And it's still very difficult, even nowadays,
It is.
And he was also the one and the only one that could talk to the Romans. He could talk to the Zealots. He could talk to the Sadducees, who are the upper class of the Jewish society, and even certain Pharisees, who are the priests.
Okay?
Right. So those are the most
priests or rabbis.
Rabbis and priests. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the most reluctant to talk to him or listen to him. Yeah. And so there is Marcus, the son of Miriam, is trying to count how many people are gathered in front of Yeshua. And he came up with about 500 men and women, where the Bible talks about 4,000, and certain preachers on this side of the Atlantic Ocean are even pushing it to 5,000,
I don't think there was that many people in the region, were there?
I don't think.
I mean, 500, I think, is a good group size for that time.
Yes,
right?
Especially in the small villages.
Yes.
Capernaum,
Yes.
And Miriam, the wife of Yeshua, is asking him, Rabbi, why did they come so numerous today? Because, she's used to attend every one of his teachings.
Right.
And normally there are not so many people. And Yeshua responds, because I called them. So Yeshua's heart had expanded 2 days before, like never before, and his friendship from extraterrestrial origin, the Elohim, also seemed following him very closely. We don't have any evidence that they are following him, but it feels like they are watching him and monitoring what's going on.
About them. Yeah.
So it was a conjunction made to force the consciousness to explode and to push back on the boundaries. Something is really, and we're going to see it more and more in the upcoming episodes. I mean, the fire, the Christic energy, which is in him, is actually ready to explode and pushing him to do things that no normal being would do.
Yeah. Yeah. He has no choice.
No, he has no choice. Yeah. So knowing that, Yeshua had asked the fishermen and a few others to provide some food in abundance, as Yeshua was planning to talk and pray for a long time, the whole day. So as usual, he was the one providing the sustenance, and the food. So he had to plan for that. And
he gathered the parties.
Right. He gathered all the souls. He contacted them, in the astral plane and told them, to come.
Right.
So he knew, however, that there would not be enough food, but he was fine with it, something would happen.
God always provides.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that life would express through him at that time, so there was nothing to worry about. And on the other hand, Peter and the other fishermen were starting to argue, their fishing for the past few days had been very poor. The bread was not in large quantities. They should have planned it, long ahead of time. They only had a few dozens of bread, and that was not enough, And even the olive trees where they were gathered were not numerous enough to provide shades for everybody.
Okay.
So everything was really bad.
Yeah. They had no trust. No
But
trust. Yeah.
Yeshua liked something very much. He likes to push the bodies and the expectations and the patience.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when you want to go far with human beings, it is always good to help them reveal themselves and pass their soul through a sifter. That's how he sees it.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And in addition, Yeshua was projecting himself, in front of all the souls to carve a trajectory for them. Mm-hmm. So he's not only teaching them, but he's also creating a new path, for humankind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, Yeshua, like any masters, did not like to see humans suffer, but he knew, for having lived it, that great achievements are obtained only with some efforts. Mm-hmm. So it was okay, to be all gathered with no shade and very little to eat.
Right.
And among the crowd, there were also a lot of children, which Yeshua always liked to have children around him because, of the innocence and naivety of their soul. It's completely sweet. Different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they have not been corrupted by the scriptures and everything yet. So one of them is a young man called Galvius. He's a young Roman who is attending Yeshua's training, and he's gifted in sculpting. And so he's a sculptor, and he's currently in service to Pontius Pilate. And so he's, I guess, doing all the ornamentations and sculpture in the palaces of Pontius Pilate. And so after a long teaching and praying session, it was time to share the breads and the fish. Mm-hmm. And the scriptures and the Bible have reported that event as a demonstration of the divine nature of Yeshua. Okay, so but that is not what Yeshua wanted, right? Mm-hmm. The demonstration, as told by the scripture, augmented even more the gap between Yeshua and the rest of the human, and that's exactly against
what he wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
He was fighting against that, Mm-hmm. And it was a big mistake that was indicating that the creative power was outside of the creation. So if you think about it, right, we are the creation.
Right.
But somehow the creative power is not within us. Mm-hmm. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But that's how the Bible and all the scriptures are painting it.
Right.
Yeah. And on top of that, the unique Son of God was the only one that could use such power, which of course is totally wrong. Mm-hmm. So it was a fundamental mistake, completely opposed to what Yeshua was always tried to teach. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He always tried to explain that humankind is divine in nature and that there was a possibility to reintegrate the divinity. Mm-hmm. Of course, it takes a lot of incarnations.
Right.
But it can be done.
A lot of clearing, a lot of understanding, a lot of patience. Yes.
Yeah. And as far as him being the unique son of a celestial father, absolutely not. This was pure baloney, okay? And this is his own words, okay?
Baloney? He used baloney?
No, I didn't use baloney, okay. But he said that it made no sense.
I didn't think it'd be baloney, but yeah. Okay.
So what was accomplished on that day? All the men and women have the capacity to also do it. And that's what he said. Mm-hmm. It was a truth that has been forgotten. The power of creation and the power of materialization. Very important. And of course, at that time and still today, very few people can understand that truth in their flesh. Although I would say that nowadays, I think with all the large numbers of millionaire and billionaire we have on the planet, some people are capable of materializing, creating,
Yeah.
what they want.
Definitely.
Yeah, in a
Mhm.
very large abundance. Yeah.
Mhm.
So at that time, everybody was saying only him can do it. Wherever Yeshua was saying, all of you can do it.
Mhm.
All of you can do it. So Yeshua is quite often wondering what is that disease which is preventing the human being from conquering its memory. Why have we forgotten everything?
Why?
Yeah, why? The oblivion. It's horrible.
Then we got to start all over again every time we incarnate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was wondering, between consciousness and inconsciousness, is it simply a few million years of repetitive incarnations? Is that what it takes? A few million years, right?
No, please.
So Yeshua was making a promise, to build bridges in the invisible and beyond the maze of the Maya. Maya is a Sanskrit term to illustrate the illusion of our world, right? The illusion, to destroy the enslavement to time. And according to Yeshua, time could be contracted, it could be expanded, or you could even skip over time.
Oh, you should try it sometime. Try it sometime. If you're late for somewhere, just say, expand time for me.
Give me more time.
I need more time, expand it. And it does. It really works.
Well, sometimes it does, yeah.
Well, no. Every time. Works. I know I get there like right at the minute. It's like, oh, wow. So I do it all the time if I'm running late, but I try not to run late.
So let's go back to that.
Sorry.
To that big assembly. When the time to it came, Yeshua could see the disappointment on the faces of Peter, Andrew, Barthélemy, and many others, as the food baskets did not have much in them. There was only maybe 20 or 30 breads, a few dozen
enough
of
to
fish.
feed maybe half the crowd.
Not even half. I mean, and at that point, only Miriam, the mother of Yeshua, had a big smile, knowing what may happen.
It's a miracle.
And without waiting, Yeshua is going to place his hand in the bread baskets, and he starts distributing them. So he's the one pulling each bread out of the basket. And an incredible feeling of joy is inside Yeshua, as he keeps distributing, And when the basket was about 2/3 empty, he kept putting his hand in the basket. And under his fingers, he could feel the bread duplicating itself.
It's hot out of the oven.
Yes. And he called those the attics of the sun, or the attics of the Christic energy, whatever you want to call it. And they were fully open, providing all the necessary breads and everything. And when the distribution was over, there were still breads in the basket.
Oh, nice. I don't know how to put the stop on that one.
And next to Yeshua, Miriam was shivering, Her two hands were on her heart. She was wondering, Rabboni, Rabboni, how can that be? Is this what you call the infinite? She asked him. And Yeshua said, Miriam, remember this in your flesh. Everything that exists and that takes shape in our world can be duplicated in its shape endlessly without limits. To do that, you have to grab the mold in the invisible. So you have to go and grab the mold of what you want to duplicate. In fact, these breads coming out of my hands have never been baked in an oven. Their flour has never been milled, and the dough was never kneaded. They are the offerings of the matrix of our planet and Mother Earth, a matrix whose purpose is to create forms and dense substances. That's what this planet is about.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a lot more fun than what we're having right now.
Right. And he continues and he tells Miriam, this is just an expression among others of the illusion into which we are all living into. So after the breads, it was the turn of the fish. And again, he put his
Reach
hand
in
in
the
the
basket.
basket, and he pulls those fish, one
Out
after
of a
the other.
line. Just pull the line out.
And fish that had never been in the water
Oh.
or being fished ever,
Yeah.
they were just created
Mm-hmm.
at the tip of his fingers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole crowd is in a state of stupor because they watch him, create all that food. And then there is a wave of enthusiasm which is erupting, and Eleazar and Miriam are placing their foreheads on Yeshua's feet,
Mm-hmm.
really to show their respect and appreciation of what he's doing.
Right.
And this time, as our audience knows, he doesn't like to be revered like that.
He's very humble.
Yeah, but he let them do it because it was not Yeshua doing it. It was the Christic energy in him receiving it. So finally, a profound silence is coming among the crowd, and there, as people are starting small fires left and right, to grill the fish.
Kill the fish.
Yeah, so I guess the fish could have come already pre-grilled.
That would have been nice. It was
But
already
no.
done. A little side of butter. No, I'm kidding.
And some herbs on it. So everybody eats in silence or speaking with a low voice because of the sacred joy floating in the place, So you have all these 500 people, being able to eat that food. And I mean, we don't know if the food was better than the one you normally do, but
Right.
I suspect it was
Well,
pretty
they
good.
all felt held and loved and
Yes,
seen, right?
exactly,
Like
yeah.
the divine is really there, present. Yeah.
And at one point, Yeshua spots Yakuba, who seems very disturbed by what just happened, And he goes, "Wait, little woman, wait, because it is not always necessary to speak." And Yeshua is taking Yakuba's hands, and after joining them, he places them against his chest, the two hands of Yakuba, and in a second, just enough to create an intent, Yakuba opens her hands, and she has 3 little olives in her hands. Fresh olives,
I love
ready
that.
to be eaten.
Yeah.
So it was a gift that he wanted to give her, for the reality of her life, to show her, how important she is and how magic can
Giving
happen.
her that attention. That's good,
So once again, this was a demonstration of what can be done when the being is fully aligned with the consciousness of the living, right?
And a knowing and a belief that it will happen.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
I mean,
he
knew going in there, I'm getting all the fish I need today.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
it. Yeah.
You have to be absolutely convinced. And I think that's what works for the billionaire and millionaire, They know they're going to get it.
Right.
And that's why they get it. Of course, that story of the multiplication of the breads and fish went around Galilee, Samaria, even Judea, even faster than the Roman runners.
That's
so,
good.
From that point, a lot of people came to Capernaum to listen to Yeshua's teachings, And there was even Pharisees and priests of the synagogue. But those were not very happy to see all these people, because the teaching of the Torah was losing a lot of the audience. So they were not very happy about that. And to appease them, Yeshua tries to interpret the scriptures in front of them. So they observe him unrolling, the sacred text, because the texts were all on rolls, on scrolls, But their hearts are remaining close to his words, They don't want to understand. For them, Yeshua is just an impostor, and his comprehension of the scriptures is only a sacrilege, a blasphemy. He's not worth reading this stuff or even talking about it. And Yeshua can see that among a few of the Pharisees and Sadducees, his words are troubling them. And the way he sees that, because he looks at their aura, and he can see that while he speaks, the aura are changing colors, So they are being affected by what he's saying. However, because of the peer pressure, and the judgment of others, none of those individuals never said anything in favor of Yeshua. Right. They were receiving his teachings secretly, but not admitting it publicly.
Right.
Never. And in fact, in the Torah, God is a being in the general sense of the term, right? He's represented as like us, right? Capable of judging, capable of choleric reactions, sometimes punishing, awarding, and always with arbitrary and cruel decisions.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Read the Old Testament, you'll know.
Right, exactly. So God is called Adonai, which is the plural of Adoni, which means a Lord. Okay. And humans are just creatures immersed in the sin, incomplete, and destined to ever live in the periphery of that God, right? Which is completely different from the teachings of Yeshua,
right?
Who is telling us that we are part of the divine. Yeah. In the Hebraic tradition, you have God, Adonai, or the lords in general. And then you have the crowd of humans who will never get to that level.
Right.
So the scriptures, of course, could be understood on multiple levels, and some fragments of hope could be found, but there was always that broken gap between God and the human race, always. Yeah. And I think it's still the case today. And so Yeshua wanted to react against that because he had the absolute knowledge that we are all part of the same family, God and humans, and that we are all participating to the supreme reality of the eternal. Yeah. So Adonai, Sabaoth, the all-powerful, the eternal, whatever name sounds the best in your heart, the divine is before all a state of consciousness, and at the same time a space of consciousness, and we are all destined to find a gate to it in ourselves.
Right.
So after maybe a day or two, another friend comes, Nicodemus. We have talked about him before, right?
Yeah.
And so they have an exchange one day about the slumber of most people through their life, And Yeshua says to Nicodemus, if a man comes to this world with an I know attitude, grow with it and die while clinging to that attitude, we can say that his life has been a slumber because he made no progress.
Right.
He came with a certain attitude, a certain belief, and he left that planet with the same belief.
Right.
Yeah. And so Nicodemus asked him, but why does one sleep like this?
Yeah, why do they?
And Yeshua tells him, you slumber by fear of discovering the great splendor of what is calling us if we ever awake. And Nicodemus goes, fear of being awake? I don't understand. Yeah. And Yeshua tells him, it's a fear of the collapsing of all our values and beliefs. The fear of destroying the pride also. The pride that you have to have certain beliefs,
Right.
And to tell yourself, oh, I know better than the others.
Right.
Because I've read the scriptures. Yeah. And it is also during those times that Yeshua, Miriam, and a few disciples are going back to Yeshua's village in the hills. So they decide one day, which is a very poor decision, but anyway, it needed to be done, to go back to the village where the parents of Yeshua, Miriam and Yusuf, grew, and where Yeshua actually spent very little time when he was about 5.5, 6 years old before joining the Carmel School of Mystery.
Right. And then after that, he went to the Himalayas, basically.
Yeah,
right?
After that, he went to the east into India. So, and that sad episode is told in great details in the book of the Three Marys. So for those of you who have not read that book, you can always read more about it. And so what happened is that Yeshua himself and some of his disciples, including his mother, are stoned and asked to leave the place. Yes. Yeah. So the Essenian community...
Who was stoning them?
Well, the people who were living in this village. Yeah. They could not accept what Yeshua was doing. Okay. Yeah. So that Essenian community was in trouble and could not accept the new energy, the new wind, that Yeshua was bringing. They could not. The
Okay.
decline of that community was now reflecting, doubts, closeness, and a lot of fear. And it is always like that with everything when you think about it, right? We go through birth, growth, and some kind of apex, and then slowing down, slowness, and disintegration, right? And so, somebody could wonder, was Yeshua sad to see that transformation of his village, and the attitude of these people? Yes, he was, but there was nothing to say about it because he went himself to find it.
Oh,
yeah. It was his decision to go, it was not an accident. So again,
he was almost expecting it.
I don't know if he was expecting it.
Oh,
I don't think he was.
Oh,
but
you don't think he was?
no, but it was a big shock. Yeah. Clearly, that whole Essenian community, after they took care of him, disintegrated. Yeah. Maybe they had fulfilled their mission.
They probably had, yeah. They were probably just there for him.
Yeah, I think that's what they were for. Yeah. So a few days later, Uncle Yusuf of Arimathea comes to Capharnaum to see Yeshua. And he's on his horse, and he was delivering a linen robe of the most beautiful fabric, which had been threaded in a very specific way, which made a robe without thread.
So stitching it?
No stitching, nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that robe has been given to Uncle Yusuf by two individuals with dark skin under the name of the Fraternity of Heliopolis. So we have seen those people, we have talked about them in the episode when he gets his initiation in the Great Pyramid. Okay, so I would send back the audience to this episode and the episode before. Yeah. And so that robe is very simple in its appearance, but it's radiating an incredible light. And it's a result of devotional love and infinite patience. I'm not even sure we have the capability to do that nowadays. Clothes without the stitches.
Yeah, I don't know how we would do that.
And so beyond that gift, that marvelous gift, from Heliopolis, Yeshua could perceive a sign from Elohim, okay? Elohim again, from the extraterrestrial. And he was feeling also that his robe on his skin was also an imprint on his soul, and was announcing another phase in the mission of Sananda in him, Because again, Sananda is the cosmic name of Yeshua, right? It's the name he has in Shambhala. Yeah. And so we're now going to jump to another episode a few days later, which is the resurrection of that young man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so this is taking place in a tiny village of Naim, which I think is called Nain nowadays. I mean, I found something on a map. It's close to Mount Tabor. And Yeshua and his disciples are meeting a procession chanting some kind of litany. And there are about 50 people walking, and 4 men are carrying a coffin where a body is lying in. And behind the coffin, there are 4 or 5 women crying, And a few more steps, and Yeshua feels a presence touching. So he's leading his group, and he feels a presence. And after a few seconds, the presence is kneeling in front of him.
Oh.
Yeah. And he can smell a strange smell of camphor, which is emanating from the presence. Okay. And in front of Yeshua appears a young man wearing a brown robe and apparently lost, And Yeshua, in his thoughts, has a conversation with that presence, and he tells him, "What are you doing, and who are you?" And the presence says, "I do not know. I remember the roof from which I fell, and my head hurt a big stone. My name is Anael." And the presence tells Yeshua, "Tell me that life did not exist from me." And Yeshua, very, very sincerely tells him, "Does death exist for the one that is asking while looking at the sun?" Yeah, I think for people who have maybe some difficulties to understand, we have the astral body of that young man recently deceased, looking at the Christic energy, right? And this is what Yeshua says, does death exist for you, who is asking while looking at the sun, at the Christic energy?
Right.
If you do not think it, Anael, it does not exist. And at that point, before doing anything, Yeshua is going to dive in the eyes of the young man, and he starts reading his Akashic records. So the memories of his lives and past lives, okay?
Right.
And as far as he's allowed to go. And he realized that Anael is a good man, and that his past has been gentle and pure for many, many lifetimes. So everything was obvious. The fact that he fell, his departure, which was now interrupted, Yeshua's presence at that moment, right? To sing the praise of the living. So everything was put together, perfect combination, perfect timing, basically.
Right.
To make something happen that would move the crowds, right? And at that point, Yeshua, with a very loud voice, says, Anael, go back to your body now. Go back to your body and raise. And the voice of Yeshua is very powerful, and his arm is pointing to the coffin and the body of Anael, which is already wrapped,
Right.
And at one point, someone next to the coffin is saying, Rabbi, he's moving. He's not dead.
They're probably like, why is this moving?
Yeah. So they immediately drop the coffin on the ground, and Yeshua sees the body inside, moving. And he tells the people carrying the coffin, he tells, free him and remove what is in his mouth immediately. Now that he visited the sun, can't you see that he is more alive than you are? So I wanted to make a parenthesis, like when someone was dying, it was a custom over there to put either wax or a piece of fabric into the mouth of the defunct. Right.
Any reason for that?
I don't know. They probably had a reason. Maybe they didn't want something to escape or
get
in there. Yeah, who knows? But since
maybe it was the only way they could keep the mouth closed.
I don't know.
Nothing could.
Yeah. I don't know. But since that young man was alive again, he needed to breathe and swallow.
Right. Yeah. Don't want a sock in your mouth.
Yeah. So after a while, Anael comes back to reality, and he's seeing the silhouette of Yeshua. And he goes, it is you who came to get me. So everybody at that point understands what Anael means, His mother has a malaise.
Of course. She faints.
She faints, And Yeshua gives her some salt, to bring her back to her senses, And then he goes again. You can see that he's alive. Give him a date and some curdled milk, and remove from his body all the myrrh and the aloes, So he had been already prepared for his burial. Yeah. And then he goes, there is no more mourning. You can stop fasting and you can grow your beards again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they shaved their beards, huh?
Yeah, apparently, when at least for the member of the family, for the morning, you had to shave your beard and you had to fast also.
Okay.
Yeah. And so at that point, I guess our audience know how Yeshua is humble. He wanted to leave, but it was impossible, as everybody was seeing in him, either the Messiah but at least a prophet,
Right.
And so they even brought a jar of wine, and he had to drink with the people to celebrate. Yeah. And so after all this, Yeshua had the premonition of what was going to happen. And he knew that his miracle was going to be even more publicized than the multiplication of the bread and the fish, right?
Right.
I mean, bringing someone back from the dead,
There'll be a lot of people knocking on his door.
Yeah, so more and more people are coming to listen to him now, to the point that the Roman soldiers are trying to disperse the crowds. They think he's now gathering way too many people for the peace of the country.
Of course.
And at that point, it was, I mean, the only way Yeshua could teach all these large crowds was by boarding a boat and speaking from the water, so that the
Okay.
water would amplify his voice. You know?
Okay. Mhm. It's pretty smart.
Yeah. And one of the drawbacks is that it was becoming almost impossible for Yeshua to find some rest.
Mm.
Yeah. And one night, he awoke with the certitude that he needed to isolate.
Yeah.
And we will be covering that in the next episode, you know, the
Okay.
famous retreat to the desert of 40 days, you know.
40 nights, yeah.
And again, you know, we will see that what the Bible and what the scriptures have told is not what happened. But anyway.
Well, that's because things got changed.
Yeah, things are
a lot. Hundreds of years later.
Manipulated.
So
yeah.
they did their own story.
Yes.
So anyway. Thank you so much for tuning in with us, and we will be back pretty soon.
Pretty soon.
We've got a couple of things here for
We
you.
have to catch
So
up.
thank you.